Welcome. In this video, I am going to talk to you about how to conclude. I'm making this video because I know some of you guys might not be at the conclusion point of your essay in class. So what that means is when you get there, you can come back and watch this video if you need it. So students often really struggle with their conclusion because at that point in your essay, you're like, okay, I've said everything I need to say. What now? Right? And students often say they feel like their conclusion is repetitive. Well, yes, your conclusion should be repetitive because in your conclusion, you should not include any new information. You're really just wrapping up all of your points, making sure your reader sees the connection, and making sure you've supported your thesis. So, just like your introduction, your conclusion should be short. It needs to be brief and to the point. You don't want a lot of extra stuff in there. You just want to say what you need to say and close it out. So, 3 to 5 sentences. 5 sentences is honestly kind of long for a conclusion. So, it's okay if you feel like your conclusion's short. It should be shorter than your body paragraphs. And that's because your conclusion does not have evidence. You're not going to have evidence. You're not going to have new information. You're not all of a sudden going to talk about a part of the book that you didn't even really mention. You're not going to have quotes. You're just kind of summarizing your ideas on what your thesis said. So I keep saying this because I want you to really hear me. It's like a summary, okay? You want to focus on the reasons you gave to support your thesis. Now, the one kind of different thing you're going to do to end your conclusion, sorry, I'm trying to move this toolbar. Here we go. Is that your concluding sentence should make some kind of connection between the topic of your essay and the actual world. So let's say that you're writing about children choosing their own religion. Have a sentence about how that applies to the world, or maybe about who should read this book. If any teenagers who are struggling with trying to fit in their religion should read this book to see what Campy Lee and Jaja go through. So the one thing that's a little different is your concluding sentence. All right, so that's an overview of a conclusion, and now I'm going to break it down a little bit more for you. Okay, so if you have your outline, you should see something that looks kind of like this. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with the toolbar. I don't know if the toolbar is going to show up in the video, but it's on my nerves. Okay, so your conclusion in the outline should look something like this. You want to start with your topic sentence, and you want to just state your opinion on whatever your topic is as a fact. But you want to do it without saying I believe or I think. And I'll show you an example. But essentially, you know how our thesis was our opinion and it just stated as fact? We want to do that again, but you don't want it to be the exact same as your thesis. You want to change it up a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean on the next slide. Then the next part, you basically are going to summarize how the novel supports your position. And then, like I said, the last sentence, explain who should read the book or what the world could learn from the book or from a character. So let's look at some specifics. Okay, so before I write my conclusion to any essay, I always start with my thesis statement. I reread it because I want to make sure that I'm still on the right track. I want to make sure that I haven't shifted focus because I want to make sure my essay flows. So my thesis said, political violence and unrest can lead to violence and unrest within families because the outside world impacts each family member to varying degrees. All right, so I think about that and I think, okay, how am I going to have that same idea, but say it kind of differently to end my essay? So a great transition phrase to use to start a conclusion is in summation. Of course, you can say in conclusion, and that's what a lot of people go for. But in summation means in summary, okay? But it sounds really fancy. People are like, whoa, look at this person in summation. So I like to say it. I like to impress people with my words. In summation, living in a country impacted by political... See, this is why you should revise, because I caught a mistake right in my own one. So let's edit it live. In summation, living in a country impacted by political unrest, got that word, and violence can negatively impact families, especially if the family was already struggling. So, this topic sentence is very similar to my thesis, but I added a detail that I would talk about in my essay about how the family just didn't fall apart out of nowhere. It was already struggling. There were already problems. So I just added another little detail to my thesis statement, essentially, and that's my topic sentence. All right, and then I explain how the novel supports what I just set up here, okay? Now, there shouldn't be new information because this should be a summary of all the points I've made in my essay. The Achiki family was already feeling oppressed and tormented by an abusive father, Papa, before the political unrest began. Perhaps a family with healthier relationships would not have disintegrated. Um, and so I'm making the connection to the fact that, like, hey, this family was impacted by political violence, but this family already had problems before the political violence happened. All right. So then I said, Purple Hibiscus reveals the true toll of abusive family relationships. Families united by fear will eventually fall apart. So, what I did here, I didn't explain who should read the book, okay? But I basically said what the world could learn from the book. I was like, basically, this book teaches people that abusive family relationships, are going to be destructive in some way. So, this is kind of a theme of the novel that I'm ending with. So this is like the lesson. I'm ending with the lesson people can learn from the book. But notice how I did all this. I stated my opinion as fact. I explained how the novel supported my position, and I gave a theme, but never did I say I think or I believe. Okay. I stated this all like it was fact, and that makes it seem more authoritative. All right. And then I put it all together. Yeah, I was supposed to revise it, but this is why you should revise. See, even I have to revise. Your English teacher. Um, it's just really important. I revise everything and then I revise it again. Okay, so then I put it together. I'd read over it to make sure it makes sense, which I did and caught a mistake. And then on this example, I added another sentence about who should maybe read it. Teenagers living in abusive family situations should read this book because Cambili's growth could inspire them. Okay, so that's just an example of how you could make a recommendation of who should read this book without saying, I think so and so should read this book. All right, so I hope this example and this walkthrough helps you. If you need more help, reach out to me one-on-one. We'll get through it, but I do think the best tool for this is this little table on your outline because it really tells you what to do in each part. And once you've done that, then put it together, read over it, make sure it makes sense, and you're good. When you have it all together, copy each paragraph from the outline onto your final draft. And please, please, please use this website that is linked in on my classroom because it's really a good tool and it will point out things you might not have noticed. Um, and so I just highly suggest you use it. Go under materials and links, go to the right stuff, paper checker. This website is trying to trick you to click on ads, but that doesn't mean the service isn't good. The service is good. Okay, so it says get started below. Got to find this where it says analyze your paper. You copy and paste it here. Answer these questions. Click that you've read the terms of service. And you click get report. So basically only click buttons that look like this. This is an ad. And it will give you some feedback on your paper. All right, get to writing.